Hello, welcome back. I don't even know where to start because so much has freaking happened within the last 2 weeks of my life. So if you are feeling these like intense energies around, or like things are shifting quickly, things are happening much faster, or just like bizarre things are happening, I think it's the energy of the field, because a lot of the things that have happened back to back, I can't even make this shit up. This episode will dive kind of really deeply into identity and identity shifting. And I think I've talked about this before in my previous episodes, but this is super strong in the last couple of experiences that I've had, especially the most recent retreat that I just went on with Christina the Channel in Sedona. And a lot has to happen. A lot has to do with identity shifting and what I had experienced within this retreat, and also what I have been feeling the last month or two of these like little nudges of me wanting to do new things, or wanting to dress different, wanting to do my hair different, or have just like different interests. And I'm like, this is so weird. I've never been interested in this before. So all that has to do with identity and shifting our identity and allowing that to happen, to bring in I don't want to say a new version, because the versions are already there. Like, we're multidimensional, and the different parallels that we have access to, and our soul is just all there. Sometimes, we have the big, broader soul, and then we choose to live out a sliver. And what we can do with shifting our identity is help open up that sliver. And this is what I have been experiencing the last several weeks. And then the lead up to this retreat really helped me just blow the lid off. So I'm speaking to you as a new identity that is very different, but also the same, which gets confusing, because the identity that you embody or that you were it's not like they're not gone. Like, all of the previous versions of us are very strongly still there, right? Like, you can't become this version without the last version. So it's kind of like she's still there, but a new one has taken over. The broader aspect has taken over. And if you have had this experience, then it will kind of start to resonate with you, to be like, oh, I know what she's talking about. If you haven't had this experience, that's okay. It is something that is available to us, and it is letting us get out of the boxes that we think that we have to be in. And it's the boxes that can be from society, it could be from you, and those are all helpful things to see what we like and what we don't like, and try to have that separation of identity of ourselves, and be different from one another, and to be different from each other. But it is even more expansive. We're like, whoa, I can be all of it and any of it that I actually want to be. So a good thing to start with is to explore the aspects of people, or situations, people that you follow, people from childhood, exploring like what you were envious of in the past, or what you like are envious of people now currently. Like, oh, I wish I could be more of that. I wish I could have that skill or do that thing. And I thought a lot of these things that I had wanted in the past were like silly and outside of me, because I was like, well, that's just not me. That's so silly to do, or to like want to do. And we kind of like discount the things that we start to get interested in, because we're like, oh, that's childish to try to start that skill, or I could never be that, or never be her, or whatever. But a lot of the times that we're having these kind of nudges or inspiration, or those like awe of others, means that like we want that for ourselves too. And it's not like a bad thing to want that. It's like, I see that in somebody else and I could pull that into me. That would be fun. So I was having a lot of these nudges coming through a few weeks prior to this retreat. And I was like, this is so silly. This is so random. Like, for me, it was like several different things that were super specific. Like, I started watching like home births and following these like birth channels, and like get really interested in all of that, and just really being like, whoa, this is just so cool. Like, mothering and different ways of mothering, and all of this is just so fascinating. And so like, I just had never been interested in this ever before. And those of you that have known me in the past is like, didn't want kids, didn't want to be married, like absolutely just was the weirdest thing in my life. Like I'd be like, absolutely not. And now I'm like, wow, that's actually a superpower and super strong. And just, I felt fascinated by it. How some mothers homeschool and some mothers raise and, all these different things. So that was one thing that I started to be really interested in. And then the second thing I was really interested in was skateboarding. And this is kind of funny because, I've roller skated, but like I've never skateboarded. And I remember as a kid in Southern California, my cousin would skateboard and be like, that's so cool. Like, I want to do that. And I started following this girl called Girl Swirl, and she has her own skateboarding company. And she didn't start to learn how to skateboard until she was 29. And she's like 7 years later, it's like her business. So it just was like, I was like, that's so weird. Why would I want to do that? So anyways, I say this because we can really discount the things that we're interested in and really try to like slough it off to be silly, or like to reiterate like, oh, that's not me. Like, why would I be doing that? But it could be like that new other version, or that more of you want to expand and be like, okay, but this is our next chapter, or this is your next interest to lead you to the next thing. Like I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but maybe me being interested in home births or having the autonomy of birth and child like education and all that kind of stuff is me being with somebody that might have kids, or me having kids of my own in the future. And then skateboarding could unlock something within me that is going to unlock something else. So before you have this thought or inspiration, or you get inspired by somebody and then you immediately discount it, think about like, what would that be? What would that unlock for me? And if I were to lean into that so strongly, like, what could be from that? Like, what could actually happen? And you probably don't even know until you actually do it. So I kind of challenge you to even do that, because I'm doing that for myself, and ordering myself a skateboard because that's what we're going to do. So I get into this retreat, and a lot is spoken about identity and the things that we can do to help shift us into this version that we desperately want to be. And a lot of things that we want in our life that to change, we have to change first. And this doesn't really, it makes sense, but it is hard to logically understand, because you think that for you to change, the outside of what is around us has to change. But really, we have to start to change first before the outside reality can change. And that's everything to do with our thoughts, our beliefs, what we think about ourselves, how we view ourselves. And then in turn, our outer reality starts to change. So one of the tools that Christina had helped us within the group was to explore different routines that we do, our name, what we go by, anything that you cling on to so tightly, what you drink in the morning, to morning routines, to just anything that you cling very tightly of, like, this is my identity, this is me. How can you pull that out, replace something new, and see if that opens something up for you? So I was like, fuck yeah, I'll try that. Let's see what we can get into. And what I decided, as going through a list of names, I was like, okay, well, what would be a different name for me to try on? And so I was having these thoughts, and I had a previous conversation with my mom about my birth story, because in previous episodes, you know that I'm very interested in the womb awakening, healing the womb. And this kind of correlates with like the home birth, because it was like, I've had this huge fascination recently of like the womb, the magic of the womb, getting connected to our womb, how we create from our womb, and how to heal it and awaken it. And so I reflected back to the conversation that I had with my mom about my birth story, and how I was trying to see what correlated from, my life patterns, my belief patterns, that correlates like to my birth story. Like, are there things in my life that are happening that are directly related to what I experienced in the womb? And so I was like listing words that people had called me, Erica, Karika, Abs, Christelle is my middle name. she wanted to call me Christy, and then I landed on Stormy. And I remember my mom telling me that she wanted to name me Stormy, but everybody else in the family was just like, ooh, that would be weird. And so Erica was chosen. And so I say this because as soon as I like wrote down that name, it vibrated within my body so much differently than like I can't even describe the feeling that I had. And I was like, holy shit, I think I'm going to be Stormy for this weekend. Funny enough, because nothing is by chance and nothing is a coincidence, is that one of the ladies there is a spirit baby communicator. And she tells us within the group that actually children that come in that are ready to come to the earth from the spirit, usually they give their mom a specific name. Usually you have that like foggy memory. If you have been a mom, if you are a mom and have known this, or like you can even ask your mom, like, where did you get my name? Sometimes you're like, oh, this is so random. Like the name just popped into my brain, like when I saw you. And that actually is what happens when the spirit baby is trying to say, hey, I want this to be my name. And when the spirit wants that, it's usually the name that is going to be used to help them remember or unlock their codes of why they're here on earth. Because when we come in, we forget, and then we try to have all these things in place of our life to like turn it back on and help us remember. And that's what names do. They're coded. And so I had this huge resonance of this conversation that I was like, yeah, I just like wanted to name you Stormy, but I didn't know why. And so I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to be Stormy. So I'm going to try this on, see how it feels. And then I could go back to Erica at the end of the weekend. As the days progressed, it was like solidifying in me so strongly where it's just like, Erica is in me. I am still Erica, but how I identify is Stormy. Like Erica is here and Stormy is all of this. So if you see this visually, this is Erica, this is Stormy. So Erica is within Stormy. And Stormy gives me all of this other range to be this otherness, this bigness. Yeah, so Erica was kind of just used for the first part of my incarnation, and the second chapter, who knows if this will continue on or if maybe it'll be another name. I don't know. But Erica started it, and Stormy is going to take over. So I am changing my name to Stormy Sage, and Sage dropped in the second day of the retreat, which is a lot of other things that had happened in that path to take that name. So if you see the change in my channel and my name on Instagram, this is kind of the story behind it and how we can use names to shift our identities. And we see this all the time with nicknames. People call their partners different names. You have different nicknames when you're growing up as a kid, and you shift into a new name as an adult. Like names, people do this unknowingly, shifting their identity and being something different, being a different version of themselves through a name. So this is what I have been trying on. Absolutely love it. I've gotten really good feedback and just support from everybody. Like when I was kind of nervous about telling friends and family to be like, hey, like this is my name now, which is really comforting and really supportive. And it just reminds me that like I have built like a really good community around me, which is really, really awesome. So yeah, Stormy Sage is the new name. And another identity shift was towards who actually and what like my mission is here. And I have gotten a lot of information and data points relative towards this. It's still settling in and integrating. So I'm not quite ready to like speak about those things specifically, energetically, but I will tell you that I have gotten a lot more clarity of what the other bigger part of me being here, and a lot has to do with the animals and the land and connecting to that, which I've had some really beautiful experiences since this like integration. And this is one of the reasons why I absolutely love like retreats and being around women that are on this same path of wanting to really awaken your soul mission. You're here for others. You're here for helping everybody else activate and fully activate within yourself and live this embodiment of what we came here to do, like really showing up for ourselves first and leading ourselves within our own lives, and then also helping others in that process. And it's just been like this huge cloud just removed over me. And it's like, whoa, okay, I can see more of the picture now. And being in this community of women was just like such a temple experience. And it's so funny because like there was legit 13 of us, which usually, like in past, you've heard of like the Temple of Isis have 13 priestesses be trained at a certain time, and we had 13 of us. And I had these, I don't even know how to describe this experience of like this. I think I might put this in a different episode of this energy that I had. So we're going to keep this. We're going to keep this episode about identity, and I'll share about the fun energetics that had happened. So yeah, changing identity. We can do this through name, nickname. We can do this by, very logistical things, such as like social media. You can change your profile picture, and you can change your handle, you can change your bio, you can change the way you dress. Maybe you're wearing more color. I recently changed my hair again. You can change literally everything that you want to. And so when I came back from this retreat, I was like, okay, we don't need to go 0 to 100 on everything. We can take it gradual. We can take it slow. Not everything has to change around me because I'm Stormy. Like it can just be that. So I was telling myself, like, we don't need to like flood the gas on everything about us. And which is a very different like energy for me, because usually I'm just like, I'm going to do it all now. Like it all has to happen now. Everything has to change like right away. Right. And, I had shifted into this. We're going to just we're going to let this be ease, and it's going to be flow, and we don't have to change everything. We've changed already so much energetically. We're changing your name, like all this kind of stuff. And so I was like, don't need to change everything. That is not what the universe had in mind. And so this is like kind of leads into like another story of my move, which I'll talk about my temporary summer move right now. So I decided to leave St. Louis. I ended my nursing contract and putting that chapter behind me. And so I'm spending the summer with my parents in Cincinnati. And in the course of this decision and like me moving to Cincinnati, I had the thought of me from Sedona being like, man, I really want to change my car. I'm kind of like over it. It doesn't really feel like Stormy. And that's when I was just like, you know what? We don't need to change the car. It's perfectly fine. It's gotten us this far. It's a great ride. It was a Subaru Forester Sport, so it's a cute car. It's been working great. We don't need to change everything. So I reminded myself this. So on the path to moving to Cincinnati for the summer, I'm driving there. It's 5 hours from St. Louis to Cincinnati. The freaking Subaru broke down on the freeway. And so I pull off the shoulder and idle drive it for like, I don't know, maybe like a half hour to an hour. The first exit that I pull over has an auto zone there, which is like incredible luck. And we fix it enough, like change the battery, run the codes, everything turns out fine for the car. I mentioned it to my parents. I'm like, this is kind of weird because I had thought about wanting to trade it in. And my dad was like, I had that thought for you, actually. And I was like, weird. Why did you have that thought? And so I was like, whatever, we won't think about it and we'll just continue on. Everything's working out. And so then we continue on another hour and it freaking happens again. It breaks down again. Won't go. And so then we drive off to the side of the edge again. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, is this my sign to get rid of this car? Like, what? Out of everything, I was like, okay, we don't need to change everything. And the universe is like, yeah, but you can. So it's just like going with the flow, listening, not pushing, but also, we can direct it, right? So who knows? Maybe I helped the car break down. And maybe the universe was actually just saying like, hey, we need to change this energy. So long story short, I end up deciding to trade my car in. And I get the Subaru. It will not drive. So I have to ship it there. I have to tow it for 3 hours. Contacted a towing company. They towed it 3 hours from Indianapolis to Cincinnati, dropped it off at the Subaru dealership. And then from there, fixed it, Thankfully, the thing that was wrong was still on like the very last warranty that was still active, because it was a 2019. So it was the very last thing that was active on the warranty. And I had already thought like, okay, what would I want if I were to get a car? And I have family members that work in Ford and have an A plan. So I was like, oh, that would be great. Simple, hassle free. I'll just check out the Ford cars, see if I might want a truck or a Bronco or whatever. I'll just like look at the Fords. And so I was like really feeling into it. I was like, a truck would be nice. And so right across the street from the Subaru dealership was a Ford dealership. And I'm like, okay, we just have to browse. Like, let's just do it. And I literally, like, we had said, my parents and I had said, like, okay, we're just looking. We don't need to buy anything. We don't, it doesn't have to happen right away. There is one Ford Maverick on the lot, which is the one I wanted. And it was a custom build that was like built 2 years ago by a dealer that had ordered it, and it didn't get onto the lot until like literally a day ago. And it's custom color, it's orange, it's tinted, it has like a hard top back across the tailgate, like all of these things. It was just exactly it. I didn't necessarily think that like I wanted an orange car. But the color really did pick me. So I test drive it and I was just like, holy shit, I think this is the car. And it was like, bam, 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 bought the car that night, sold my Subaru the next day to CarMax. And like, just like that, the identity is even further shifted. And it's just kind of funny. It's just like the things that we think like we don't want to change or can't change or shouldn't be changed sometimes are the things that actually need to happen to actually really shift into that identity. A lot of the things even that we're resisting, that we have the most fear around, to be like, oh my God. And this reminds me of things that people would tell me throughout like different periods of my life. Like if I had a certain haircut, I would get comments like, oh, I could never do that. Or, I went out and traveled a long time and people would be like, oh, I could never do that. And I think there's a lot of specific magic in the things, places, people, experiences, actions, whatever that we're repelled about and that we feel a lot of resistance to. A lot of like, because I kind of disagree with like always going to what feels good and in flow. Like I think there's a lot of juiciness that happens within the things that you're resisting. Maybe with pushing through the resistance will actually lead to more flow. So if you have something that is a part of your identity that feels very like, oh my God, I could never do that, then I kind of want you to try it. And so that's what had with this like Subaru experience. And even my name just feels like felt so silly for me to like, oh, it's just such a silly thing for me to do, to like change my name in my 30s. Like, what? But then I'm like, why not? Like so many people do it. Like even performers change their name to a stage name. You have different names as like when you're playing a sport or whatever. Like it happens all the time. So we can literally just decide for ourselves that we want to change it. Anyways, the car was a huge part of this identity shift. And now I have a Ford Maverick truck that is orange. And my aunt was so cute. She had messaged me saying like, oh my gosh, that orange is like, did you pick that color or did that pick you? And this has to do a lot with the Stormy vibes, to be honest, of like what the next chapter is going to be. And will be further embodied as I continue. And let me just read you this really quickly because this is just too cute that she even sent it. And also very on brand. So orange is the color of luck, sexuality. We know this is our sacral chakra. Inner power, confidence, fertility, courage, hope, inspiration, vitality, joy, pleasure, loyalty, and support. So it's just so funny that we think like not everything is a sign or not everything matters or some things are by coincidence. And I would argue that literally everything is a sign, a coincidence, means something. Like we should be reading more into things. We should be really analyzing like, okay, what is the universe trying to communicate with me? What is God trying to communicate with me? What is my soul trying to communicate with me? And so a part of Stormy's mission is to tap into more of this, which is even my next chapter, is all of this inner power, sexuality, courage, fertility, vitality. All of this has to do with the further broader mission, which is you can't make it up. You can't make any of this up. Yeah. So that is the identity shift. And those are the things that have helped me shift into Stormy further, the embodiment of it, the actions, the things around us, part of our appearance, part of the actionable things. And so those are kind of the physical appearance things, one, and second is your actions of like what you're doing. And third is like also the beliefs, what you're thinking, what you're believing, and that all kind of clumps together as this embodiment and this really like center focused of like, okay, this is actually who I am now, and letting yourself fully walk through that door. I know I've talked about doing these changes in identity before in a previous episode a while back, but I just thought it was very important to have this conversation again since I made a very drastic change. The channel and the podcast is still going to be called Between Portals. I'm not making that change. I still absolutely love that name and it resonates so deeply. I will be changing the cover though, because, I love to do that. But so this is the energy of Stormy. Let me know if you can feel any differences within this episode, or if some things feel similar, or if you resonate with any of it. If you want to change some things about yourself, maybe you want to change your name too, reach out to me on Instagram, or you can comment below. So I will leave you with that and really question with yourself, how can you change your identity a little bit to step into that next version that you want to be? Whether it's a new job, a career, a new partner you want to be with, or a new place you want to live. Maybe you want to have more abundance. Maybe you want a new car. What are all those things that can help shift you into that? And remember, it is the energy change within first to help make those shifts of really embodying that different frequency. And the outside reality will start to change in that effect. It'll literally ripple out. And if I can do that and have those changes happen within my life so fast, so can you. So until then, I'll see you in the next episode, and I hope you have an incredible day. If you find this really helpful, or if you feel like it would be helpful for somebody else, I would love it if you could send it to somebody, or leave a comment, or give me a subscribe. It really helps grow the channel and the podcast. That's it. And I'll see you in the next episode.